Welcome back. Yesterday afternoon, as the guilty verdict for former officer Derek Chauvin was announced, a black teenager was shot dead by police in Columbus, Ohio. Police say 16-year-old Micaiah Bryant was attempting to stab someone when the officer fired. Our Trevor Ault is joining us live now from Columbus, where the mayor and police officials just held a press conference. Good afternoon, Trevor. So what is the latest there in Columbus?
Well, Terry, the police department and the mayor just played some more extended body camera footage from this deadly incident that happened yesterday afternoon as that Derek Chauvin verdict was unfolding. And it gave us a much more clear picture of how that event actually happened. We cannot play it for you in its entirety because it's very graphic and we have to edit it so it's okay for broadcast. But I can tell you that we saw the officer who fired the shot, who's now named Officer Nicholas Reardon, arrived in a vehicle by himself and watched as Micaiah Bryant, in police words, attempted to stab those two people in front of him very quickly after he got outside of the vehicle to happen. And him opening fire was seconds after he got out of his vehicle. And after that, we saw as Micaiah Bryant fell down bleeding into that vehicle, some of the citizens surrounding that officer accosting him, asking him why he had opened fire, and he briefly defended himself to them, saying that she had gone at another woman with a knife. We also saw some of the body camera footage from two of the other officers who were responding, Terry, one of them applying immediate first aid along with Officer Reardon, who fired those shots. Another was then pulling aside some of the witnesses after those shots have been fired. Having said that, beyond those body camera footage, those clips that have been released fairly early on, and in fact, incredibly early on, police have not been able to provide a lot of answers. And that's because right now the Bureau of Criminal Investigations is handling this to decide whether or not this officer acted criminally, whether or not he was following police department protocol. But either way, I asked the mayor of Columbus, who has been calling for a lot of police reform, who has declared this a tragedy because a 16-year-old girl's life was taken. I asked him whether he would push for reform and changes to prevent something like this happening, regardless of whether or not the officer acted appropriately. And this activists are using this as another rallying cry for why there needs to be further police reform, because they're saying in the George Floyd death, which we now know was a murder at the hands of Derek Chauvin, you even heard from the prosecution that they said this was one person committing an act of murder. A lot of activists are saying if in these circumstances, in that presence of a 16-year-old girl swinging a knife, an officer can shoot and kill her, then that could just be considered state-sanctioned murder. And they are saying that is another reason why we need to see police reform. We saw a lot of people who were out protesting in Columbus. It's possible we could see more protesting tonight. It is very clear that despite the release of these videos and the fact that they do provide a lot of transparency, it is not necessarily putting everyone at ease as to whether or not this shooting was necessary.
A tragic and difficult event. Trevor Ault in Columbus, Ohio, thanks for that report.